Okay, like I said, the books are starting to flow, and I'm going to need somebody to organize this and do this. I can't do this. I'm a little advanced to get too deep into this. I need somebody to take this over and organize it and set up. I don't know what they do, rooms and chat rooms and so forth. However, we can get this information out in a semi-organized way. I don't do everything. I don't do anything very completely organized because it just doesn't work out. As soon as you try to organize everything, you end up. I don't know. We need to just get this exposed, and everybody's ideas are welcome. Oh boy. Okay, my friends, you all know that I discovered mud fossils, had them tested, DNA, CAT scan, everything, and they are from creatures that petrified in the Great Flood, such as this goose. And this goose's head is feathers and everything petrified, bones petrified into stone. And these gigantic stone balls are all over the earth. Nobody knows what they are, and I do. They are tendon enthesis. Now listen to this. This is Guayabo, which is in Costa Rica. Listen.
City of Guayabo, which was inhabited more than 3,000 years ago. The city was home to a now-lost culture with advanced development in civil engineering, architecture, and urbanism. As mysterious as it may seem, to this day, no one knows who this culture was, where they came from, and where they disappeared to. Unlike other pre-Columbian cities and cultures that were documented by early explorers, this culture disappeared a century before the arrival of the Spanish explorers, and no one knows why.
First of all, that's assumed. I believe this culture disappeared when the Great Flood happened 3,500 years ago, not recently.
The only reason we even know anything about them is because of the highly sophisticated aqueducts, water storage tanks, stone mounds, cobblestone roads, and various other structures left in the area. The aqueducts and water storage tanks were so well constructed that they still function today, thousands of years after their creation. And yet, as interesting and mysterious as this lost culture may be, its achievements still pale before those of another lost ancient civilization. One that left hundreds of enormous megalithic stone spheres.
All right, this is where they get into no idea what these spheres are all about. I know exactly what they're all, and there are hundreds, there's thousands of them, and they are not just here, they're all over the entire world. Now, they still haven't figured out what these are, and I can absolutely show you what they are.
Country. Archaeologists are unsure of the original purpose behind these stone spheres and why so many of them were created. While some have suggested that the stone spheres were crafted by the pre-Columbian Diqui culture, which flourished during the 8th to 15th centuries, others deny these theories as the spheres are way too sophisticated in design.
Well, first of all, they are sophisticated, but they're designed by a creature's body. They're not designed by people just to make these big gigantic stone balls. Okay, this is the explanation they give for these stone balls.
They performed chemical analysis on the stone spheres found in the Bosnian town of Zavidovici and compared them against smaller stones from the same area. What they found was astonishing. The results revealed that the stone spheres were formed artificially through a process of melting the rock down to a liquid state and then pouring the molten rock into a man-made mold. During the liquid state, the ancient alchemists would have mixed in various additives to ensure they achieved the best properties of the material. The liquid stone would then be poured into a large mold, and once dried, they would end up with near-perfect spheres.
That's just not correct. Let me show you how this actually happened. Because of literally giant creatures. All right, I'm going to leave it at this. They still won't pay attention to what is just obvious reality. This is interstitium, which is a bodily tissue. All of these little black balls here are the balls that anchor these straps. And these straps allow your skin to float back and forth and come back. This is what they look like in actual tissue. And here's what they look like in actual creatures' bodies that were gigantic. This is the Moki marbles. That was skin at one time, and so was this. This is out in the United Kingdom. I think it's called Huntington Beach. And these are all the balls that have eroded from this fleshy matrix. These balls are absolutely gigantic, and these are just one area. There's other places they're bigger, smaller, they're all over the earth, literally everywhere. And that's because the earth is, or was, a creature at one time. Now it's a dead body. It's exactly what Jesus Christ said. He said, when you discover the earth, you'll find a body and a corpse. He's right. These stone balls are everywhere all around the earth. You see them over here on the oceans where the water runs up and drains them off. They are very easily seen. And they are in these structures here. These are stone balls that were in a creature's body. They're not just laying around here because somebody made them. They're everywhere around the earth. Everywhere. I have, and they're all in these walls and everything. Now, let me just show you what it is. Although I could drag this out for hours, I have hundreds of pictures of these stone balls. And they come in all different types and sizes and varieties. And some of them have cores inside of them that are not like the outside. The inside is actually like, well, let me see if I can find some here. There's some that turn green from probably being in an area where there's copper or something like that. There's this style here which has the chert, which is, I believe that's, what do they call that? It's a real hard stone right around the outside. There's a lot of differences to these stone balls. They're not all the same. This one here has a core coming up, it's split right down the center. That happens quite frequently. Here's another one, the same thing. This one has two cores coming up. That's another style. They all have their own little style. Here's one that's open right up, and the kids, these have little square chunks inside of them. And they cut these flat and make plates out of them, the Chinese did. Here's, this was one big ball, I believe, at one time, and maybe a whole bunch of little ones inside of it. I don't know. Here's a stone ball cluster. This is a house and a van over here. Alright, this is a cluster of stone balls. This is the same house and van. This I think is the eye. It's an eyeball. It's not a stone ball. It's an eyeball, I believe. We're talking about creatures that were just so huge you can't even possibly imagine. That is also one of these stone balls. And they're all over the place here. Let me show you where they are in the United Kingdom. I'm going to leave it at that. And let people start to realize what the earth was like. There was giant creatures on this earth, exactly like Enoch said. Miles tall. Alright, my friends, here's Myron Cook. He's going to tell us all about this salt feature that created hypoxia. It's just a zone of death just outside of Louisiana in the Gulf. And he's claiming he understands how it was formed and so forth, which he does not. Now, I'm not here just strictly to pick on Myron, but he is just wasting everybody's time with his nonsense. And I tried to discuss the details of these hairs or sediments or whatever. Here's the thing he's talking about here with Quetzalcoatl spitting out into the Gulf. And here's the things that he's calling volcanic intrusions. Those are the ribs of a giant serpent. And I'm telling you right now, I am correct about my assessment of what happened down here in the Gulf. This is Quetzalcoatl. He's a giant serpent, winged serpent, and his feathers come all the way up the Green Mountains here. Those are feathers. Those are not just little mountains. Those are feathers. And the feathers coming off his head are his headdress right up here. This whole thing is his headdress. And here he is spitting out these noxious chemicals out here, creating a death zone. Phew, spit it right out of his. Here's the hair, the feathers coming out of his head. There's a feather right there. There are feathers all over, but this is, I mean, you can't, there's no way you can miss that's a feather. It's impossible to miss that unless you're just blind or you just don't care about reality. And if right now, that's as far as I can come with Myron. He just doesn't care what's real or not. He's coming out with all of these things trying to build a big YouTube channel, which he's done, and it's all wrong. And he's leading everybody into wrongness. This was all written about in the ancient texts, in the Bible, in the Quran, and everywhere. Now, not necessarily about Quetzalcoatl, but our Americas had this story. As a matter of fact, I think a Maruca is Quetzalcoatl. I'm not sure of that, but they're all over. There's this one, and then obviously everybody knows about the one in Typhon here in the desert. And Typhon is killing this gigantic fish. He's spitting out all of this noxious fluids onto this huge fish, and it ate into his back. And this is his head right here. And here's all his dragon scales going down his dragon scaled throat. Here's his dragon scaled throat going straight down here. All of this was written about in the ancient texts, and it's time that Mudfossil University changed the way that everybody thinks and starts to understand about the reality, and then starts to look into God and Jesus Christ, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the only one going to get you out of this life alive. Everybody dies in this life. What happens to you in the next one is up to you.